So let's talk about the New York Democratic primary results and what's happening on the Democratic side between Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton. We said, I believe it was early last week, and eventually so many other media outlets picked up on this story. We said that Bernie Sanders needed, based on last Monday's numbers, about 2/3 of the remaining vote and the proportional delegates that would come with that vote to secure the Democratic nomination prior to the Democratic convention. Hillary Clinton at the time needed somewhere between 55 and 57%. And this was, again, assuming that the superdelegates would ultimately be split roughly in proportion to the vote totals. Not a guarantee, not a foregone conclusion, but for the time being, we decided to go with those numbers. We now have changed numbers based on yesterday's results, which we will look at first. Yesterday in New York State, in the Democratic primary, Hillary Clinton with just under 58% of the vote, and Bernie Sanders with just over 42% of the vote. This got them respectively 139 delegates for Hillary Clinton and 106 delegates for Bernie Sanders based on the New York Times numbers as of 10 minutes ago. So there was this window between 45 and essentially 55% of the vote, where if Bernie Sanders could secure between 45 and 55% of the remaining delegates, he would not secure the Democratic nomination, but he would prevent Hillary Clinton from securing the Democratic nomination. That did not happen yesterday. Bernie Sanders came in below that threshold. I guess we could call it the spoiler threshold, where Bernie wouldn't win, but he would prevent Hillary Clinton from winning. And so as a result, let's look now, Lewis, at the delegate situation as of this morning, according to the New York Times numbers. And again, to reset, there are 2,383 delegates needed to secure the Democratic nomination, and there are 1,668 remaining as of this morning. Hillary Clinton, right now, has 1,446 delegates, whereas Bernie Sanders has 1,200. Now, you would look at that and say, okay, 246 delegates, separate them. Maybe doesn't seem like much, maybe it does, but the real question as we start to get into the end of this primary race is, what percentage of the remaining delegates does each candidate need? Currently, Hillary Clinton needs 56% of the remaining delegates to clinch the Democratic nomination. Bernie Sanders needs 71% of remaining delegates to clinch the nomination. So I've been seeing some memes and graphics being circulated this morning from people saying, hey, look, here were the results in New York State between Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders in 2008, and Barack Obama in 2008. And Barack Obama, as most of you know, ultimately did secure that nomination. So Bernie is absolutely still in this thing. That is one view, and that is a very optimistic Bernie view. The other side of this, Lewis, is, well, hold on a second. There are really no scenarios where Bernie Sanders secures 70% of the remaining delegates. The only big wins he has had, where he has had 70% or more of the vote, have been in relatively small states. And if you look at the state-by-state polling right now, even though Bernie Sanders has absolutely surged and come back in the national polling, there is no realistic scenario where Bernie Sanders gets 70% of the vote. Now, people will be mad at me, Lewis, and I say, don't kill the messenger. I voted for Bernie Sanders in the Massachusetts primary. I would love it if Bernie Sanders were the nominee, but we have to be realistic here, and it is becoming more and more insurmountable. The 70%, I don't see a path for Bernie Sanders to get 70% of the remaining delegates.
No, we can probably count that out. And I mean, let's just say things continue the way they're continuing. And Bernie Sanders, and things look at about the same level, just add more delegates to the total, right? If Hillary doesn't clinch it, they're still going to award her, the party is still going to give her the nomination because she will ultimately have more delegates and more superdelegates. Unfortunately, I think it looks pretty grim for Bernie, but we have to just hope that something catastrophic could happen to the Hillary campaign, right?
Yeah, well, something could happen. I don't know that at this point I'm in the mindset of let's hope something catastrophic happens, because the later you go in this thing, the bigger the impact of a so-called catastrophe would be in the general election. And as I've said before, I am not a Bernie or bust person. I recognize that while Hillary Clinton is significantly more conservative than Bernie Sanders, a Republican in the White House in 2016 would be winning in 2016, being inaugurated in 2017, would be an unmitigated disaster of historic proportions. So my view is, if Bernie Sanders can prevent Hillary Clinton from clinching the nomination prior to the convention, that gets him and the more progressive wing of the Democratic primary electorate the most clout possible in what will eventually be, as Lewis says, a Democratic nomination that is awarded to Hillary Clinton. I'm going to get bashed for this, Lewis. I am looking at the math.
I'm going to get bashed for it too, where there's going to be a mob with pitchforks and torches outside the building in a few hours. But hey, this is just a reality.
I'm on Twitter at Pakman. Lewis is on Twitter at Lewis Motamedi. If there's something specific I'm missing about the numbers, not about you being mad that I would support Hillary if Bernie is not the nominee or whatever, but if there's something very specific I'm missing about the numbers where Bernie gets 70% of the remaining delegates, let me know, and tomorrow I can discuss what those suggestions were. FreshBooks is offering David Pakman Show listeners a 30-day free trial of their service. I'm obviously the host of the David Pakman Show, but I also run the business that is the David Pakman Show, and I want to spend as much time as possible on the show and growing and improving my business. So FreshBooks lets you get paid more quickly. It helps with invoicing. It helps with so many of those business administration tools, and it's for freelancers and small businesses who want to get organized on those issues and really focus on growing the business. So to get your 30-day free trial of FreshBooks and support the David Pakman Show, go to gofreshbooks.com/TDPS. That's gofreshbooks.com/TDPS.